In this podcast, we're going to be breaking down exactly how Andrew went from a captive agent to actually becoming an independent broker. And not only did he do that in less than 30 days, but he actually just crossed his first $20,000 and is on pace to make six figures per year his very first year as an independent broker. So we're going to be breaking all this down and more in this podcast. So Andrew, welcome to the podcast, man. Appreciate you coming on here.
Really appreciate it.
It's cool because this is I think our first, maybe second in-person interview. So happy to have you here. You went from tell us how you even got started in the insurance industry.
Yeah, really good question. So I actually owned a jiu-jitsu gym, and a really good friend of mine in the jiu-jitsu gym. We were actually friends first. He really big dog, really big player at a insurance agency, and did really good job on his social media, posting a lot. $5,000, in your free time. And I just kind of reached out. What was this about? And then before you know it, I'm studying for the exam, and I passed the exam.
How long did it take you to pass the exam?
I did it over Christmas break. So it probably took me, 7 days to study and then sat for the exam. So it wasn't too crazy.
Yeah.
And really good friend of mine. I mean, we're really good friends to this day.
Yeah.
I owe him a lot. I mean, the things that he did for me, even the stuff like that he did for me behind the scenes that I will never know about, I'm truly grateful for. A lot of lessons, but as a captive agent, it just felt really heavy to me, like just being successful over there. And I experienced some success, not like, the success that, I was reading about and seeing you post on the internet. And I was like, there's got to be, it has to be lighter than this, right? And it just, that's probably the best word that I can use, is that it felt heavy. It felt heavy over there, just
Heavy in what way?
like just booking appointments, just trying to get the at-bats, right? I mean, we talk about the problem is getting in front of people, right? You just need to get in front of people. And so that's what I was trying. I was like, man, it's this hard to get in front of people. And so, I mean, we can talk about the differences between, captive and independent, and being a broker and where you're at comp wise and stuff like that. All of that is really good, but it just felt heavy to me. And so I did a lot of research. Obviously you came up, Dana came up, Cody Askins came up. And I think it was one of your Instagram posts, and I just commented right there on the post, and you got back to me, and I was like, holy smokes, I can't believe, I even, like, we could pull it up, and it was like, I can't believe you're really talking to me. Like, I thought someone totally ran your social media. Yeah. So
Did you comment, or did you?
I think I commented on the post.
Okay.
And then you got back to me, and you were like, yeah, what's going on? And you were really genuine. That was the first, like, first off, I was surprised that it was you. And then second one, you were really genuine. I could tell you were like, yeah, what are you struggling with? You're like, what can I help you with? And so I just kind of said, hey, I'm really struggling to get in front of it. I'm trying to do 20 presentations a week. And I think, I was like, and I even told myself, like, hey, this is all I'm going to do. No gym, no family, no nothing. This is all I'm going to do. And I think I maxed out at like 12 presentations. And I was like, man, this is really heavy to do. So
how many dials did it take you to do that?
I don't know. I can't even remember. It was in the thousands probably.
And were you hand dialing?
I was hand dialing. Yeah. Hand dial. And that, yeah, I mean, it was, yeah. So, and I'm not saying, like, there are a lot of people who are very successful at captive agencies and being captive agents. But, I just, after you and I talked, I probably watched every testimonial that you had on YouTube. And I was like, if these people can do it, then I think I could at least do half of what they're doing. And so, yeah, that was kind of the.
Yeah, I remember our first conversation that we had, and you're like, if I could do 10K in AP and, like, submitted, like, I'll be the happiest guy. And I was like, dude, we have people doing that in a week.
Yeah,
and it's crazy because you did that, like, your first 10 days, 15 days actually dialing, which is crazy, having a $4,000 day. I mean, that, like, first commission check was probably, like, over $3,000 or whatever from AmAm. But, okay, let's dive into, like, the biggest differences you're seeing between a captive agency and also an independent agency. that you've seen initially?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the pay is different, the percentages, the comps. I really really like being able to write different different houses, right? So like I can go to AmAm, I can go to GTL, I can go to Royal Neighbors, I can go to these different different carriers, depending on how healthy or how sick the person is, right? I mean, really nice thing about one of the mentors in there, Max. He, from day one, he ingrained it to me. He's like, "You're writing 2 carriers, 3 max, right? Like you're not writing any more than that." And that's the nice thing about being a broker is like, if someone has congestive heart failure, if someone did have cancer in the past, if someone did have diabetes, high blood pressure, right, you can still write them, right? And at the other, if you're a captive agent, some of those things just may be deal breakers, right? It's like, yeah, I had cancer. It's like, oh, okay, unfortunately, we can't write you, right? So,
like, did you have to just push them away?
Yeah, just straight up decline. Yeah, straight up decline. Yeah. I mean, there were some instances where, like, I mean, they're a little bit more lax on seniors, but it was graded, and even still, like, if they had diabetes and high blood pressure, now it's like, even those you still have to submit them as a trial, which means you're not getting paid right away, and then it has to go to underwriting. And so again, just heavier, right? You're jumping through more hoops, and it just felt heavy to get a deal across and get paid. And
even the leads, right? Talk about the leads that you were working.
Yeah, I mean, the leads, I mean, they're old. Like they were old leads. I remember just calling people, and they were like, "You're calling me for what?" Like I submitted that like months ago.
What did they actually submit though? Because I know that it's at that agency, it's different, right? Like it's not even for life insurance.
Yeah, I mean, very very few are, but they're requesting either retirement, will kits or child safe kits, stuff like that. Just so we're just trying to get in front of them, and then we do that needs analysis. So. I remember early on, I was like, man, I just want to have conversations with people who want insurance. And and as crazy as that sounds, and obviously the first phone call you do, it's, hey, you reached out requesting life insurance.
Right? It's a crazy concept, right? And it's funny because like what the will kits are, like people say it's bait and switch. Like as a marketer, like I know that it's not bait and switch. I would say that it's just like a lead magnet, and like, but it takes so much upfront work to be able to like deliver that, and then you turn it from, hey, we're gonna talk about your free benefits. Now we're gonna talk about your permanent benefits, and then you're in a life insurance conversation. And I think it's all about the framing of the conversation when you're getting on the call. Are they expecting something free and just like advice, rather than, hey, they're expecting to actually, like, it could cost something. And if their frame of mind to get them to show up is completely free, not only are you gonna have to overcome the objections of like just people taking action, but you're also having to overcome the money side of it, that you have to actually get somebody from, you're getting somebody who's just curious, and you need to be able to talking to people who are serious. And so that curious to serious all comes from the marketing side. As a salesperson, you're just gonna be fighting uphill so much if your marketing is working against you in that way.
Yeah, really, really well put. I mean, and again, just like there was nothing over the phone, so everything had to be over Zoom. Yeah. I mean, people in their 50s and 60s, and that was the hardest part. It's like people trying to figure out Zoom just to sit down, just to have this conversation. It's like, I mean, again, just felt heavy. Again, and I'm not talking bad about any other agency other than that. To me, it just felt heavy. I wanted to get on the phone. I wanted to have one call closes. I wanted to be as seamless as possible, and so that's kind of why.
Did you did you have a limiting belief that you couldn't actually sell over the phone, or you think you could, they just didn't let you?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, strict policy. I mean, they even sent an email out saying, hey, we can't, no closing over the phone, have to do Zoom, or go to their house, right? So, yeah, and I guess the limiting belief, like I'll be like, I did start to have some doubts, like maybe I'm not good at sales, right? Maybe, but I just kept going back to like, I know I can do this. And then just going back to your testimonials, like real people, guys and girls, all ages and all different backgrounds. And I'm like, I'm not an idiot. And I can at least do half of what these, absolute dogs are doing. And so that's what I reached out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to touch on something that Andrew talked about, just for you, like watching and listening to this right now, is it's so important to just, as an independent agent, to condense your carriers down to like 2 to 3 carriers max. And the reason why you want to do this is because, one, profitability is going to increase because of this. Number two is you're not having to think about the chargebacks so much, and like, yeah, you're tracking your business, you're putting on that spreadsheet. Yesterday we like did an audit of your business. There's other stuff that like he's selling at a high clip, but there's other things he can work on, which we're going to be talking about. But I think the biggest thing is, okay, when you're focused on 2 to 3 carriers, you're able to just solely focus on making sales. You're not having to focus on having to learn all these underwriting guidelines of, okay, American Amicable takes this, Royal Neighbors takes that, AIG takes this, GTL takes that, which ones are graded, which ones are day one. All these things you're going to learn as you go, but the only thing that you should be focused on when you're starting out, and the reason why Andrew's had such great success, is because he's just focused on sales. That's all he's focused on. The marketing side, we're helping you with, we're doing for you, you're learning a little bit, but he's just focused on sales. That's all he's doing. And so as a new agent, if you want to actually make money your first 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days, just focus on sales. Make sure the marketing's done well, at least good enough to where you can just focus on sales and not having to learn about all these random underwriting guidelines that don't really matter.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and that was one of the benefits of the community. I mean, would I have known that? I probably would have taken me longer, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 months, right? But day one, Max is, we all know Max in the way that he explains things. So yes, it was ingrained in my head early on. 2 carriers max, 3 if you absolutely have.
Yeah, it's AMAM until it's not, right? And if that's the case, then it's like, okay, write a GTL policy or write whatever you got to do at that point. Right. So you see that this is possible. You switched to independent. What are some things that were there anything more challenging than just working with one carrier or captive, or was it like everything was just easier because you plugged into that system and tried it for a while?
Yeah, and again, I'm very grateful for my time at that captive agency, because I don't want to say it's easy over here, but it is. I want to say it's easier, right? And again, to your point, I'm just focusing on sales. I'm focusing on dials and sales, and getting into that community, which we can talk on later. Like, what you're paying for is, I'm paying for your lessons, the bad beats, the lessons that you had to learn, for that Max, that Austin, that Christian, all of those lessons. I don't have to go through those because you already did. Yeah. And I'm paying for speed now, right? Yeah. So I don't have to learn those really, really hard lessons that Johnny learned and that Austin learned, that Max learned. All of those lessons you are helping me learn faster, right? So, waiting for those contracts to get approved takes way longer than you want it to, right? 10, 14 days. Going through the script that entire time, having the marketing taken care of. I had, pretty much anything and everything that could go wrong at the beginning did go wrong. So
it's like Facebook ad accounts getting disabled, right, and right. I mean, it's not helpful. Like with the election right around the corner, that's about to happen. Right. Like it's just all these different things, but you didn't let that stop you. You just were you stayed in the pocket. You're like,
I was married to the game, right? So I mean, and that was it. That was like burning the boats. Like, that's why I got into the community. I'm like, this has to work. This is going to work. There is no plan. Plan B is plan A has to work, right? And I'm not the youngest guy in the game, and I got a wife and 2 girls, and with life experience, I feel like the nice thing is I know how to have a conversation. I can have a conversation with someone in their 60s or someone in their 30s, and obviously because I have a family, no one has to motivate me to make dials, right? No one's like, hey man, you need to make dials. So 300 a day is like minimum, right? Austin told me it's 300 a day, or 4 presentations, something like that. Yeah. I mean. Or 2 sales, right? And then after that, you can go out and you can look your family in the eye and know that you did everything you could that day to put food on the table. And that was another thing, right? Like yesterday, just showing my tracker, and I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. And then like Max gets involved, and then Ashley gets involved, and then Giovanni shares his, and I'm like, oh man, like I thought I was doing good, but these are like big. So it was nice to see, like, okay, now I need to step up my game even more, and going to close out Q4 even better, and then Q1 is right around the corner, and no, it was really nice. I mean, I thought I was doing well, and it was like, okay, I can do this better, and this, that, and this, and that's what you get with the community.
And I think like that's the biggest thing is it's hard to like tangibly say like what you're actually going to get. Like everybody wants the leads, everybody wants the marketing side done, everybody wants sales stuff, but it's like those intangible things that, or those tangible things that aren't like are going to get you, but you don't know it until you're actually making, like the problems you're facing now, most people never see these problems because they're not even making sales, right? So number one, you got to make sales, you got to do the marketing side well, but then it's like, how do you actually run a profitable business? And that's what we broke down in his tracker. Like there's cadences and habits that you need to focus on, especially as a solo producer, that you really need to be leaning heavily into, right? So the biggest things that we covered was calling the carriers right away, or if you're writing carriers that you can just live chat support, reaching out to them at the very first part of the day, or then the very next day. Hey, did you receive this case? Are there any things in underwriting that we need to do to get this approved today and issued today? Because what happens? You get commissions that are just there waiting for you, but you don't actually take the action to be able to do it. You already did the hard stuff. You already sold them the policy. They already said yes. They already gave you the bank account. They already gave the social. Now all you have to do is just reach out to the carrier, make sure that they're actually going to send this through, make sure it's approved and issued, and then you actually get paid at that point, right? And that's just something that people don't know, right?
I didn't. And that was, because at that captive agency, there was a whole department. And yeah, you would check your comp on Friday or, Wednesdays or Thursdays before you would get paid on Friday. But I've never had to do that. And so this was all new to me. And then another skill that I had to learn, okay, add it to the to-do list. This is what I'm doing, 7 to 8 a.m., right? Because they're in Texas, 2 hours ahead right now, no problem, right? So before you hop on the phones, we're checking in with your carriers. Hey, this application, what do you need? This application, anything on my side, right? Yeah. that I need to get. So,
where did the belief come from that like this actually could work for you? That selling final expense, selling just life insurance over the phone, just selling life insurance in general, when you weren't making it, where did the belief come from that you actually could do it? That led you to doing $20K your first month as an independent agent?
I don't. I think a lot of it just came from other people believing in me, and so when I did get on the phone, when I did get in front of people, I was able to get through. I think my closing was a little bit higher than most people. And I'm like the worst technical person. I have no idea about technology or anything like that, but I can have a conversation, and I think my tone is pretty good. Yeah. And so now it's just fine tuning the script, and again, those tutorials that you did at least gave me the belief, like I could, not that I could be where they're at, but at least do half, right? And I'll never forget, there's a line that Chase says in his tutorial: just because you weren't successful at one agency doesn't mean you can't be successful at another. And I remember that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was like, man, just because I wasn't successful over there, it doesn't mean that I can't be over here. And I had run a small business. I had run my own gym, and I was very successful, and I did that all by myself. And so I knew, like, okay, I was a successful solopreneur, and now it's just, applying those same skills, traits, habits, processes to something else that I could stay home and be with my wife and kids a lot more, and is, way more lucrative, right? Way more profitable. So, I guess the short answer to your question is I ran a jiu-jitsu gym. I was successful. I did that all by myself, but I was just away from my wife and kids. And so, shout out to Mike, my very, very first mentor, for letting me get into the insurance game. And then big thank you to you, because without you, all of these successes that I'm experiencing early on would have taken me, a lot longer, if I ever, made it to that point.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I think you have that like a lot of agents that are like listening to this right now can take is that you got to be coachable, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Like, even though, yeah, you've done other things successfully in the past, it's like, okay, this is brand new. I'm starting fresh. I'm gonna act like I know nothing, and you came in and you were coachable right away. Another thing is taking obstacles and just like, how am I going to get through this? Not like, okay, am I going to get through this, but like, how am I going to do it? Do I got to go over? Do I got to go around? Like, what do we got to do, right? And I think that the very last thing, like, it kind of goes into that, is the adaptability in that. But then also the last thing is like focusing on the inputs rather than the outputs, right? Before you're actually making the sales, before you have 2, 3, 4 sales in a day, we're like 3 to 4 weeks into you actually doing this, and it's like just blowing things up. Before that all happened, you were focused on the inputs, right? You were focused on, how do I just make the dials? How do I do the presentations? And I think what's cool is even though you've had different experiences with different agencies, one thing that I appreciate about this specific agency that you've been with before is that the culture of hard work, the culture of no excuses, like, you're working, like, I'll just be honest, like, just bad leads, horrible leads that aren't wanting life insurance or are actively looking for it. They could be, right? But I think, like, when you work so hard and you believe that it could happen here, it's kind of like you got to go through that hard work to get to the other side. And then once you're on the other side of, like, it's easier, it really is easier.
Yeah, easier, lighter. yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And you can't have the testimony, right? You can't sit with Johnny Nitafan and talk about this without going through, the aches, the pains, the long nights, the long days, and just, like, I remember looking up at the ceiling, like, man, am I really going to be able to do this? And I mean, I have nothing but good things to say. Anyone who's on the fence should absolutely jump and burn the boats and do it. And the only regret that I have is that I didn't do it sooner, right? And but yeah, I'm happy I'm here now. We're having some really, really good conversations, some surreal conversations about, building that dream team. I'm a little gun shy or hesitant to do it because I had a team of 5 at the other agency, and then everyone left. But why do people leave? Because they weren't making money, right? So, but I think we've done a really good job, or you have done a really good job. Like, okay, let's nail this sales process down. Let's make sure you're able to produce at an extremely, extremely high clip. And then once we're there, now we can talk about adding someone on, 1, 2, 3 from there. So,
and that's the next level, right? You start as a solo producer, make money yourself, then you move on to, like, okay, how do I bring 2 people on? Make sure they literally, you give them every single resource that they can possibly have, so that there's no excuse. You're working the same leads as me. You're working the same script. You're working the same hours, right? You're working the same states even. You're working the same carriers. Everything is in your court. If you don't succeed, that's on you. And I think that's, as an agency owner, like, that's something that I at least for me, was really, it gave me a lot of peace of mind. Like, hey, if they don't win, it's because it was them. Like, I can actually point and be like, I did everything in my power. I'm continuously trying to be on the cutting edge of figuring this stuff out. So it really is on you, right? And I think coming out of that place of abundance, that I'm actually making money with this. And if you're not actually contributing to the cause, if you're not actually showing up for yourself, like, dude, I got money to make. Right. And it's not like I don't need you. You actually need me. And it's changing the power dynamics to that, which is really powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm excited to learn and grow even more. And I mean, ego is the enemy, right? And being humble and coachable, like you talked about. I mean, I'm only gonna take advice from people who I want to trade places with, right? And one day, hopefully, I can be half as Johnny, right? And have a team underneath me, and so those are the next conversations. But with you're taking on a lot of risk when you bring on people with you, right? Because now you're on the hook, and I mean, you maybe know them, but we've heard some horror stories, right, of fraud, and now you're on the hook for $50,000. It's like, whoa, like, so you take on a lot of risk, but high risk, high reward, right? So just trying to make sure scared money doesn't make money.
Right, that's it. As we kind of wrap up here, for somebody that's maybe like, I don't know if I could actually do this. I don't know. Like, is this even real? Like, maybe skeptical on the fence to actually like join the community, actually be like, you know what, whatever the investment is, I'm ready to go. I want to do this thing. What would your advice be to that person right now?
My only advice is if you can read, then you can be successful in this business. So the coaches are there, the mentors are there. If you have any burning desire to better your situation, better yourself, better your family, and you can read, then I think it's a no-brainer, right? Because you're going to get that coaching, even if you are an introvert and it's hard to talk to people or hard to have conversations. We're still going to be there for you. If you don't know how to do marketing, that's all Johnny. If you don't know how to do Kixie or the CRM or anything, there are people to help you with that. And we want you to succeed, but it ultimately falls on them, right? It's their responsibility to put in the hard work. And also, like, those mentors aren't going to work with people who aren't wanting or trying to be there, right? If hey, I'm really struggling in this business. Okay, how many dials did you do? 20? And they're like, what? Like, they don't have time for you. But if like, hey man, I made 400 dials and I'm still not clicking, okay, then let's figure this out. We're going to listen to your calls, and that is the support of the community. That's what you're paying for. So
yeah, 100%. Well, appreciate you guys watching to the end of this video. Andrew is just getting started. I can't wait to like do a year from now interview, like where he's at, the agency he's building, so on and so forth. So appreciate you guys watching till the end of this video. Drop a like down below and also comment. Blow this guy up, right? Give him some encouragement. Give us your biggest takeaways down in the comments below. And if you absolutely love this video, I know you're gonna love this other client interview right here where Matt did $48,000 his very first month. So click this right here. I'll see you inside.